to me, I think that culture most usefully refers to our signaling systems, our symbolic signaling systems. And among other things, these coordinate our actions. Now, social, on the other hand, refers to behavioral systems. And specifically, it's those behaviors, for me, in which we relate to other people, right? We've got lots of behaviors that aren't necessarily social behaviors, but when we relate to other people, that's our social behaviors. And social systems are these systems of relationship and of exchange. Okay. This is a distinction between cities and countries. And so, first of all, to talk about the first example is social dynamics, right, of cities, of an urban system. And I'm going to try to explain why cities arise primarily through social dynamics, specifically exchange dynamics. Okay, not through how people think about things, but through what people do and how they actually move around and how they interact with one another. Okay, all right. So let's just imagine that you've got a society of independent farmers, a bunch of people out there farming, each one making their own food crops and so forth, and they've got their, grain here and their hoes here, and I just picked those crops and implements because they're a nice little Microsoft symbols for them. So anyway, they're all farming, making their own food, right? Now, suppose here, for whatever reason, this person, B, is really good at making hose. Maybe they've got really good material to make the hose. Maybe they're just skilled at it. Maybe they just like doing it. Whatever. This person is good at making hose. Okay. Now, let's say that C over here sees this and says, okay, this person makes really nice hose, better hose than I make, right? Plus, I really don't like making hose. It takes a lot of time. It's boring. I hate it. So, C says to B, tell you what, okay, I'm producing all of this food, and actually I have some extra, okay? So how about if I just spend a little bit more time making food, I don't make any hose, and I'll trade you my extra food for your hose. Okay? Well, that sounds like a good idea, right? Okay, cool. So they do this. So B makes more hose, right, and C just doesn't bother with making hose, but just gives some of this agricultural surplus to B. Now, B is making all of these hose, right? So B doesn't have as much time for farming, but that's okay because B is getting this agricultural surplus or getting the food from C. So they've got a trade relationship going on here. Now, perhaps some other people say, that looks interesting. That looks like a good idea. B makes these really nice hose, right? And we all don't really want to spend our time doing that. We'd rather be, hanging out doing something else. So why don't we trade with B as well? Okay, so they start trading with B. Okay, now B is getting all his or her food from the trade. B doesn't even have to farm anymore, right? B can just spend all his time making the hose, trading with the other people, right? So you've got all these exchange relationships going on here, and so B quits altogether. No more farming for B. Now other people might look at this, let's say G and H, and they think, I don't like farming. It's a drag. You're outside in the hot sun all day, don't really like it, don't really want to do it. I want to go get into the hoe business, right, with B. Let's go do that. Sounds like a good idea. So, in order to do that, what they may do, and what, in fact, people do, is they move over to where B is. They want to get where the act. So, there's a lot of reasons why they move there, and all of these have to do with the dynamics of exchange. Okay, this is important. One is that B, in this particular diagram, is centrally located, right? So that is helpful. So it facilitates interacting with lots of different customers, right? And so they can take advantage of that. Also, if they all reside near each other, B and H and G, well, they can do that because, unlike agriculture, this hoe production doesn't take a lot of space, right? So they can reside more closely. And also, there's all kinds of things that go on that make it more productive to be close to one another. Now, in a very simplified form, this is how urban systems, how cities develop, right? That you get these concentrations of locations where people interact with one another, where people produce things and trade, okay? And we happen to be living in one of the major global centers that does this, right? All kinds of things flow through Singapore, and that's where a lot of the wealth in Singapore comes from, right? Through global flows of finance, of people, of ideas in form of education, and so forth. So this is a classic example of the rise of urban systems.